Okay guys, welcome back to lesson 4.5. I did not make these notes, and I noticed that she left off a major part of this question. I was trying to figure out why it just said that. So I'm going to write what the directions should have been. This actually helps you with starting to find the solutions. So I'll be right back. Okay, so if you will add this function to your notes, it should have been on the directions. I apologize. Again, I didn't make these. If you notice, they're a little blurrier than normal, but I now have new colleagues, so they're trying to put in their part too. Okay, so we are going to find the x values for which f of x equals 0. So what does that mean? That just means instead of f of x, we're going to write a 0. We're basically just going to set this equation equal to 0. That's all this means. So very similar to the last example. The only difference is the wording. All right, again, if we don't understand the wording, how do we know how to solve the problem? All right, so we're factoring because we're solving, we're finding the zeros. So what is the first thing that we're going to do? Can we factor something out? Do they all have something in common? Well, I look at it and I see that they're all even numbers, so they all have a 2 in common. And again, we don't want this negative in the front, so let's divide everything by -2 and cancel it all out. So now we have x to the 4th minus 8x squared plus 16 equals 0. So now that's a little nicer to work with. This should look a little familiar because we have the x to the 4th and the x squared. We can rewrite them as x squared something, x squared something. All right, then we notice 16 is a perfect square. Well, what's the square root of 16? 4. 4 plus 4, 8? You say yes. So we have minus 4 minus 4. All right, and remember our special pattern with these is x plus 2 times x plus, or x times, try again, lady. X plus 2, I'm just going to write up here because I'm struggling. A plus b squared, or minus, not plus, because the plus is the I. My apologies. Equals a minus b times a plus b, or vice versa. It doesn't matter which one comes first. All right, so we're going to rewrite this. Square root of 4 is 2, so we have x plus 2, x minus 2. That's for just this first one. But then we need another one for that one. So we have x plus 2, x minus 2. Now, these two are exactly the same, right? So we could rewrite this as x plus 2 squared. These two are exactly the same, so we could actually rewrite this one as well as x minus 2 squared and set it equal to 0. So then if we solve, we're going to set our x plus 2 squared equal to 0, x minus 2 squared equals 0. So we solve this, we get x equals -2, and we get x is positive 2. So it did say sketch a graph. Unfortunately, we weren't given a graph, but we're going to sketch it real quick. We know that our greatest exponent is 4. It is negative, so it's going to be facing down. So if you remember, that means that it's going to kind of look like an M, if you remember from lesson 1. So we know that our graph is here and here, and then we have a y-intercept of -32. So we're going to pretend like this thing is way down here at -32. Again, in big ideas, they give you graphs to choose from, so you don't have to worry about all of this. But we do know that we have a y-intercept at -32. So our graph looks a little something like this. So if you talked about the end behavior, this would be f of x is approaching -infinity as x approaches -infinity. This one would be f of x approaches -infinity as x approaches infinity. Okay, so just a quick sketch, but you guys should be able to find this graph based on knowing what our x-intercepts are. Because remember, your solutions, your roots, your zeros are where your graph crosses the x-axis. So I'm going to give you a couple. I want you to pause. I just want you to give those a try. And if you would attempt to sketch it, if not, I will sketch it for you so you can see what it kind of looks like. So if you will work on factoring those out and then come back. All right, so here's the first one. There's your rough graph sketched. As long as you know what your x-intercepts are and what your y-intercept, you do go back to the original function for your y-intercept. As long as you know those main points, then you will be able to determine, you'll be able to pick out the graph that goes with it. All right, so if you haven't already, please give 6 and 7 a try. All right, number 2, because we know it's odd, it doesn't look like the W or the M. And because it's positive, our end behavior is here and there. You recall that from lesson 1. All right, so if you have questions on this one, please ask in class. If you haven't already, try number 7. And we're almost done. Then we only have one example left. All right, so this one, because we had that negative in front, you can't have that. We factor it out. It really doesn't make much of a difference, though, because you still get x was 3 and x minus 3. And then we have our x was 2, so these were our zeros. It was a odd function and it was negative, so that's what tells me my end behavior is here and here. And then I have it crossing my x-intercepts. All right, so again, if you have questions on these, please ask in class. All right, last one, our favorite type of questions, word problems. All right, last example. I'm just going to call that the C manuscripts. I'm not even going to try it because I'm going to sound like a crazy person. All right, so the C manuscripts consist of 2 bronze cylinders. One of the cylinders has a volume of 50 pi cubic feet and has the radius and height shown in feet. Find the radius of the cylinder. And she did not put the picture on here. Give me a minute. I'll draw the cylinder with the stuff that should be on here. Okay, there's the picture that you're supposed to have. All right, so we've got to find the radius and the height of the cylinder. All right, so what do we know? We know a volume of the cylinder, or we should from middle school. But I know we're forgetful, so it's okay. I'm going to help you out. Volume equals pi r squared times the height. So remember, for middle school, I don't know how your teacher taught you, but when I taught middle school, I taught find the area of the base and then multiply that by the height. So if you know the area of the base, which is pi r squared, then you multiply it by the height, which is how the formula comes up. All right, so what do we know? They tell us that the volume is 50 pi cubic feet. So we're going to replace our volume with 50 pi. All right, what else do we know? We have pi r squared. We know our height is right here. So 4r squared minus 17. So we know our height is right here. Okay? All right, so let's get to work. So let's distribute this out. So we're going to multiply pi r squared times 4 pi r times 4r squared. So, Miss Gill, what kind of crazy crap are you doing here? All we're doing is we have a 4, we have a pi, now we have r to the 4th. Okay? Then we're going to multiply 17 times this, so we basically have minus 17 pi r squared. Why did we do that? Because we need to set this equal to 0 in order to find our solution. So we need to set it equal to 0. We need to move the 50 pi to the other side. So we're going to do that by subtracting our 50 pi. All All right, so now we have this. So now we're looking, do they all have something in common? Yes, they all have a pi. So we're going to factor out the pi. Now maybe this might look a little better for you. All right, so now we're looking, we need two numbers that when you multiply them, you get negative 50. When you add them, you get negative 17. Oh, no. Sorry, scratch that. We have to do 4 times 50. So we need two numbers. Sorry, I had a moment. We need two numbers that when you multiply them, you get negative, oh my goodness. Negative 4 times 50 is 200. When you add them, you get negative 17. So negative 25 and positive 8, if we multiply those together, we get negative 200. If we add them, we get negative 17. All right, so now we have to break this up and do our factor by grouping. So this is breaking up into negative, let's go with 8, positive 8. It doesn't matter the order, I'm just thinking it might be easier to do the 8 with the 4. That's my logic. So 8r squared minus 25r squared, because then that would go nicer with the 50. It's just my thinking ahead, but like I said, if you didn't do it that way, it would still work out. All right, so we're factoring by grouping. So that means we're going to group these two terms together and those two terms together. So what do they have in common? So these two have a 4r squared. So we factor that out. We have r squared plus 2, which means we should have a r squared plus 2 here. Remember, these have to be the same. So what could we factor out of this to make this true? A positive 25. So don't forget our r though. I meant our pi. Don't leave our pi behind. All right, so now this gets rewritten. Remember, we take this term and this term, so 4r squared plus 25. And then we have r squared plus 2. All right, and now we're just going to set them all equal to 0. We do not care about the pi. Sorry, didn't mean to skip a step. Remember, we got to do the square root of 4, square root of 25. We can break this up and do the a plus b. So this becomes 2r plus 5, 2r minus 5, and then we have our r squared plus 2. All right, we do have the pi, but the pi is not going to help us in this case. We're just going to set each thing equal to 0. So we have 2r plus 5 equals 0, 2r minus 5 equals 0. And, oh, I was wondering why I was throwing myself off. This was a minus. Remember, we were supposed to take out a minus here. That's why I'm messing myself up. I'm so sorry if you caught that. Great job. All right, so then we have r squared plus 2 equals 0. So if we solve this, we subtract the 5, we divide by 2. I'm just talking this out because I'm running out of room. So we have r equals negative 5 halves, or negative 2.5 if you must. This one we get r equals 5 halves, or 2.5 if you must. Now when we do this one, we have r squared equals negative 2. So that gives us r equals plus or minus I square root of 2. All right, so we can only have positive real solutions, so we know that this is not going to be the case. This one is negative, so that's not going to be the case. So our only positive real solution is 5 halves. So we need to find our height. We're going to take that value and we're going to plug it in to our equation here. All right, if you want to use 2.5, that is perfectly fine. I know most of y'all do, so that's what I'll do. So we're going to substitute in 2.5 into our height equation here because we're finding the height. All right, so 2.5 squared gives us 4 times 6.25 minus 17, which gives us 25 minus 17, which equals 8. So the radius is 2.5 and the height is 8 feet. I'm going to write that up here. The radius is 2.5 feet and the height is 8 feet. Remember, if your question is in words, your answer needs to be in words. So this is your answer. The radius is 2.5 feet. The height is 8 feet. I know. We love word problems. They're our favorite. I know. They're not Miss Gill's favorite either, but they're not that bad. You just got to break them down and think about what it is that you're working on. All right, so I am going to stop the video there. Again, I know the factoring can be challenging, so if you have questions on the factoring, please, 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 please come ask for my help. I'll be happy to work with you and practice some of the factoring equations. All right, see you in class.